Welcome to the Harvard Business School Alumni New Venture Competition, also known as aNVC, Past Winners Panel. We're excited about our agenda and the past winners who've given us their time today to share their experiences. I'm Lori Bishop. I'm the Associate Director for Alumni Programs at the Rock Center for Entrepreneurship here at HBS. I'm joined by my colleague, Mary Rose St. Cyr, as well as our three panelists today, Janvi Shah, Romina Savova, and Alex Sambvani. For today's agenda, I'll say a few words about the Rock Center, the competition, invite the leaders of the clubs who are hosting regional Alumni New Venture Competition events to introduce themselves. Then we'll hear from our past winners and open it up to question and answers. So first, I'd like to talk about the Rock Center. Mary Rose, if you want to move the slide forward, that'd be great. Thank you. The Rock Center is the hub for entrepreneurship at Harvard Business School. If you want to go to the next one, that'd be great. The Rock Center leverages the school's robust research and teaching agenda, vibrant ecosystem, and diverse global network to support students and alumni who are launching, building, or investing in high growth ventures. We work very closely with the Harvard Innovation Labs, the other HBS initiatives, alumni relations, the new GRID program at the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, and so many other entities across the university to support entrepreneurs across the school. Some of the student programs from the Rock Center include the Rock Accelerator, an experts program that offers office hours to students from entrepreneurs in residence, venture capitalists, and lawyers in residence. There's also a Rock Summer Fellowship, a demo day, and of course, the new venture competition for students, just to name a few. On the alumni side, we also offer an experts program called REAP. We have Rock on the Road events, a Rock 100 community, virtual workshops, and of course, the Alumni New Venture Competition. And for more information about the Rock Center, please go to our website and be sure to check out our YouTube channel and follow us on LinkedIn, of course. Today, we're here to focus our program on one of our programs, the Alumni New Venture Competition, of course. The aNVC is an annual student and alumni competition sponsored by the Rock Center, the Social Enterprise Initiative, and Alumni Relations. The alumni track started in 2010, and since then, we've seen almost 2,100 applications, and we've had 166 regional winners. The purpose is to be a launchpad for innovative new ventures from HBS alumni, offering support as well as financial and in-kind awards. We hope that it's a positive intervention through access and exposure to potential investors, mentors, advisors from the local HBS alumni clubs, the school, and beyond. It starts with 6 regional competitions around the globe, hosted by the following HBS alumni clubs and associations: France, Shanghai, New York, Boston, Northern and Southern California, and Atlanta. Winners of those regional competitions then move on to the global final judging round, which is hosted by the Rock Center. The monetary prizes at stake are $75,000 for the global winner, $25,000 for the runner-up, and both of those are determined at the end of the global final judging round, and then $5,000 for the alumni crowd favorite, which is chosen at the global finale, where the top 4 teams will have the opportunity to pitch. The deadline for this year's competition is January 31st. We encourage you to submit your application early to connect early with the alumni clubs who are sponsoring and hosting the regional events. You will be able to update your application until the deadline. You can find out a lot more details about the competition and eligibility on the Alumni New Venture Competition website. Before we hear from Romy, Janvi, and Alex, let me share some inspiring statistics. So as mentioned, there have been 166 regional winners since 2010. And 72% of those regional winners are still in business. They've generated over 9,300 jobs, raised more than $2.9 billion. 58 of those 166 have had at least one HBS female founder. And 51% of that $2.9 billion was raised by female-founded companies. 25 of the 166 have been acquired. There have been 2 IPOs, and there's been 1 unicorn. So hopefully that's inspiring some of you to take the leap to apply to the competition. Now, if we can just stop the screen sharing, and I'd like to invite any members of the alumni clubs and associations who are hosting regional competitions to introduce yourselves, tell us what club you belong to and what region you represent. If you use the raise hand function so we know where everybody is, because we have a lot of people online today, that would be great. It'd be nice for potential applicants to be able to connect with those who are leading some of these competitions. So is there anyone who'd like to introduce themselves? You can also do this in the chat. So if no one wants to introduce themselves right now, that's great. Just put a note in the chat to let people know that you're here. All right. And we do thank all of the clubs who are part of the hosting the regional competitions, being such a key part of the aNVC. So next up is our panel session. We'll leave 15 minutes for question and answers at the end, but feel free to put any questions along in the chat. So now let's hear from our panelists. We really appreciate you taking the time for being here and sharing your stories. What I'd like to start with, if you could just introduce yourselves and then tell us just a little bit about your companies. And let's start with Janvi.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here and chatting with you all today. My name is Janvi. I am the co-founder and CEO of Hue. We are an e-commerce enablement company that works with brands and retailers, really in the beauty and fashion space, to help consumers see how products would look on real people like them through a community of diverse people who leave video reviews on the website. So that's a little bit about Hue and what we do. I started Hue while I was at HBS with 2 of my classmates. We graduated in 2022, and then we went on to compete in the Alumni aNVC the year after and won the runner-up prize. So very excited to be here and speaking with you all. Also a little bit of context. Now, most recently, we've raised a $4.5 million seed round. So that just gives you a little bit of context on what stage we're at the moment.
Perfect, thank you. And we'll hand the mic over to Alex.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Sambvani. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Slang.ai. We are a voice AI platform for restaurants. So our product answers the phone for restaurants and integrates with OpenTable and other reservation platforms to do things like automatically make a reservation over the phone. We've got over 1,000 restaurants using our product in 48 states in the US and also a few regions in Canada. Started the company 5.5 years ago, actually 2 years out of HBS. So I was HBS class of 2017. And we did the New York regional competition in 2020, literally like 2 weeks before. It was like March 2020, 2 weeks before COVID shut the whole world down. And we were fortunate to win the New York regional competition, and it was a great experience for us. And based in New York, and I'll stop there.
Great, thanks, Alex. And Romy.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Romina Savova. I'm the founder and CEO of PensionBee. We are a global online retirement service provider for consumers. We help people to consolidate old retirement accounts, whether that's 401ks in the US or what we call pensions in the UK, into one new online account that they can manage from the palm of their hand through an app and ultimately grow their savings over time. I am class of 2012, and I started PensionBee in 2014. So we are about to turn 10 this month, which I am very excited about because we will be having a very big party this week. The HBS NVC that we won was the European Regional, and that was in 2016. We were just on the verge of launching our product to consumers, so I remember it really well. We traveled to France, to Paris for the final competition, and it was super helpful in our journey. Where we are at now is we are one of the 2 IPOs from that 166 winners group. We listed on the London Stock Exchange in 2021, and we have around $7 billion in assets under administration on behalf of around 260,000 customers. So that is PensionBee in a nutshell.
Wow. Congratulations. Thanks for sharing all of that with us. I think all 3 of you answered the next question, so we'll skip that one. If you can recall, like, what motivated you to participate in the Alumni New Venture Competition? And I think you all alluded a little bit to what stage your company was at, but if you can reiterate that, like, at the time, like, why did you apply for that year for the competition? So let's start with Alex this time.
Sure. We were early. So I think we were about 7 months into starting our company. We had raised a friends and family round, so a few $100,000 at that point. We didn't even really have the full first version of our product live yet. We had 3 beta customers. I think only one of them was paying us, but we had some early proof points and a vision where, strong vision of what we wanted of the product and the markets we wanted to go after. And so, yeah, I mean, I would consider us pre-seed stage when we were in the competition.
Great, thanks. And Romy, let's go to you next.
Sure. Well, I think that we were pretty early. We had been in existence for just a little over a year. We wanted to do the MVC because we felt it would give us really good exposure. We are in the consumer business, and so are always hoping to find people with retirement problems that we can help to solve. And we felt like we would be able to meet potential customers, but also we wanted to meet potential investors, get our name out there, hopefully generate some positive publicity, and just generally be on the fundraising scene. So for us, we had a number of different motivations, all of which were fulfilled. And it really gave us the opportunity to kind of hone the pitch in front of a big audience.
Yes, thank you. Janvi.
Yeah, we were also pretty early. We had only raised a pre-seed round the year before, so we were really excited for similar reasons to what Alex and Romy described, of getting more exposure, getting in front of the entire alumni community. I think the possibility of getting some cash didn't hurt either. So we, any startup needs some funding, and an equity-free opportunity is always worth going for. So we were definitely motivated by that. And then lastly, I'll say we also competed in the student NVC. I don't know if any of the folks in the audience had competed in the NVC when they were a student. And we had gotten really close to winning 2 times, but didn't. And so we were very motivated to just put our hat in the ring again and go for the win.
Thank you. So some people are hesitant to jump into the aNVC or apply because they think it might be a big time commitment. Can you all touch upon that and your experiences of how much time, and did it get in the way of other things that you're trying to accomplish, and or how did you balance it all? So Romy, let's start with you this time.
Sure. Well, it is a time commitment. Essentially, you are honing your pitch, you're preparing to present to a large audience, you are meeting people. But I would say that as a CEO, that is the job as it is. So it doesn't necessarily get in the way of what what you're normally doing. If you are focused on doing it around a fundraising spot, I think that that can align pretty well with what you are, with what you are working on anyway, and the opportunity and kind of what you get in return. I think does justify the time that you spend on it, because you do get quite a lot of value even if you don't win. And if you win, it's something that you can cherish, for kind of, 5, 10 years, maybe more. We still have a picture kind of floating around that sometimes appears in an annual report. So I think you can definitely get quite a lot from the experience, and it's okay to dedicate time to it.
Great, thanks. And Janvi.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the tip to time it maybe around a upcoming raise or current raise or even post raise is really smart, because then you already have all your pitch and your materials prepared, and it's really incremental to be pitching again to another audience. And this is a very like friendly audience as well. Like, I think that's worth noting, that it always felt very supportive and friendly, even though you are in a competition. I also got a lot of value from just going to the pitch and seeing the other companies pitch, and like hearing how they put their pitch gave me some ideas, because you, as a founder, you don't always get that opportunity because you're in just one-to-one meetings with investors. So I think there's, as Romy said, like a lot of value, and really the effort wasn't that significant. For me, I didn't have to travel. I competed in the Boston regional and I was living there, so it's just a walk down to campus. But I know it could be a bit more of a time commitment for those who are traveling, but I do think it's worth it, and not that much more work over what you might already be doing.
Great, thank you. Alex?
Yeah, I would echo everything that Romy and Janvi said already. It is dedicated time, but it overlaps with the work that you're probably doing anyway as an early stage founder. So I took it as an opportunity to really get our pitch airtight, get in front of as many smart people, investors included. Yeah, it didn't feel like, oh, this is this additional thing that I have to like be worried about, because it overlapped with how I should have been spending my time at that moment in our company's life cycle. And the pitch is, you're never done with the pitch. Like, you're always pitching, evolving it. And so getting it airtight as early as you can is crucial.
Thank you for sharing all of that. So speaking of pitches, what are the key elements that you believe make a pitch deck or a presentation stand out in this competition, or just to investors in general? Like, what kind of advice can you give around the pitch, the structure of the pitch, the presentation, a couple key elements of advice? And seeing Alex, you were just talking about the pitch. Why don't we go start with you?
Sure. I have a lot of thoughts around pitch. I'm an engineer and like started my career in finance, so far from like the marketing side of things, and so I was really bad at pitching initially, and I had to learn over the years how to get better at it and lean into it and like pitching. But I think I just say all that because I think about it almost from like a formulaic standpoint. No surprise, trained engineer. But the way that I think about it is, how do you tell the story of how your company is going to be the leader in a large market opportunity, right? So that's like the meta framework that I think about. And all of the other components of pitching, like competition, product, et cetera, kind of all roll up to that master question. So think about answering that. How does this become a massive company in a big market, right? And then, of course, that breaks down to various different sub components that and when I went through the program, if I recall correctly, there were like slide templates with like various different points that we needed to hit that all kind of tie together. But if you can confidently tell a story about how you're going to become a big company in a big, the winner in a big market, I think that's powerful, and that's the way I think about it.
Excellent. Thank you. Janvi, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love that. I love that framework, Alex. And I think that there's a lot of resources out there on kind of what to include in your pitch, but I do think the delivery is also incredibly important. So really practicing like bringing energy to your pitch. Like this is your company, this is your baby. Like you should be excited. So I think sometimes it's easy to get in your head and kind of wrapped up in like, oh, this is what I need to say about my market, about my metrics. But if you just come into it with a lot of like good energy, I think especially if you happen to be pitching virtually too, because sometimes that energy is hard to get across on Zoom. Like for me, I will literally like stand and talk because it gets me more in the like level of energy that I need to be giving. So I think that actually makes a big difference, because I did notice sometimes watching other people pitch that they were saying great things, but the energy wasn't really coming across. So just remember that. And then I think also communicating, if you can do more storytelling and help the judges kind of understand your space, because they're hearing a lot of different pitches from different industries, and sometimes they don't know much about your industry. So telling something relatable that can really pull them in and help them remember your pitch, because they are seeing so many pitches at once, I think is also quite important. And then the last thing I would say that's kind of specific to MVC that I always give people advice on is to pay attention to the rubric. So there's like an actual rubric that they're using to score your pitch. And I think it's available publicly. So make sure to take a look at the rubric and make sure that your pitch is actually hitting on every single point, because that might be a little bit different from the pitch that you're giving to investors. If you're missing like some component about go-to-market, or how you plan to use the funds, just don't want to get dinged on something just because you didn't talk about it. So just don't forget about that.
Great. Awesome. And Rumi.
I feel like so much important ground has been covered. I mean, I think for me, maybe the basics are, don't do too many slides, just in general. Forget MVC for one moment, but just in general in pitching, I think the fewer you have, the better. Never more than 10 is always kind of my golden rule. And then always kind of just hit the key points that people want to know, and they're pretty generic across every business. And because you inevitably won't be able to cover everything that you need to say in 10 slides, we always prepared a Q&A with questions, difficult questions that we felt might come up, and we had just written down, and so felt confident that we didn't have to, kind of search for facts on the spot. The fact that you've gone through that process alone will leave you much more confident about answering the questions when they do come up.
All great advice. Thank you for sharing. All right. So the competition itself. So did the competition provide any pivotal connections to investors, customers, strategic partners? You can just talk a little bit about that. Like in the short term, like right away, you've all talked about what happened then. And then on the longer term, did that translate to anything? So Janvi, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. We definitely got a lot of kind of inbound right away, which was really exciting. So from just pitching and people watching, alumni who just messaged me on LinkedIn and said, hey, love what you're doing, want to stay in touch. And at the moment, we weren't in an active fundraise. So we more so just like kept in touch with those people for future raises. But I think that was great to just have like an instantaneous interest, which you don't get that often as a startup. And yeah, we've made some like great connections since then. And we actually have one of our lead investors who came from when we pitched in the student MVC. So I think there's a ton of opportunity there as you're pitching, because you're getting in front of investors who are already in the HBS community, and they can be like quite helpful to you, even in just navigating, like, let's say you're trying to get into a firm because they're kind of more friendly towards you, or they know a little bit more about what you're building. They can help you kind of take the next steps if fundraising is something that you're looking to do.
Great. And Romy, how about you?
Well, we got, I think, 2 investors directly from the the audience, and they have always been really helpful and really engaged. We got lots of offers for introductions as well, which we gratefully took. I think it's that part of the business where you're just in build mode and you want to meet everybody. I would say what we really enjoyed was kind of the buzz and the press that it created. I mean, I don't know if this will show up, but I actually still keep the award behind me on my desk, and it's just a nice kind of reminder of what happened kind of 10 years ago. And yeah, we continue to leverage it even now. It's good. It's good brand association.
So, Alex?
Yes. So for us, the similar to what Janvi said, I had a bunch of really prominent alums reach out to me and just, learn about what we're doing. And I had a few just like catch up or intro calls with folks that just thought what we're doing is interesting. Some of those calls turned into investment. Later down the line, we similarly weren't in an active fundraising process, but we were just kind of always fundraising. So we just, as those folks reached out, we kind of just took note of them and circled back when we were fundraising. And I actually just remembered this now. I forgot about it, but one of the connections that we made through aNVC became an angel investor, and then that angel investor ended up introducing us.
I don't know if is it my connection or?
Uh-oh, did I fritz out for a little bit?
A little bit.
Okay.
You started to talk about the angel investor and then.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I think my internet just got a little wacky. I think I'm back now. So we met an HBS alum through the aNVC who became an angel investor, and then that angel investor ended up introducing us to our Series A lead Series A investor. And so that, in fundraising, it's all about connections and relationships. And so someone we met through the aNVC ended up introducing us to our largest investor and board member, and so that definitely paid dividends.
Thanks for sharing all of that. So you might have touched upon this a little bit, but looking back, like what can you identify like what the most significant way the competition helped accelerate your venture's growth or visibility? And anybody who'd like to start, I'll give you the opportunity to jump in.
I think for us, it's pretty straightforward. We got some great PR out of it, a lot of social media buzz, and just made a bit of a splash through the process.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree on the PR side because I think that maybe hasn't been touched on too much, but I think it's always great as an early stage company to get some type of win or award or recognition, and so we were able to leverage that as we went forward to get even more recognition. So we got like Forbes 30 under 30, like other recognitions, and we leveraged kind of the early wins from these Harvard competitions to show that we are a legit startup. So I think you can definitely milk that for like quite a long time as well. And then I would say like just the general network and connections. Like I love Alex's story. You never know who's in the audience and who might be helpful to you. And so it's always worth like getting those connections or networking in that way.
Great. Thank you. Alex?
Yeah, I think for me it's yeah, similar. I would just echo what was said. I think it's really all about like the exposure, the connections that you're gonna make. You just never know. And the power of the HBS network is so strong, and this is like a perfect way to activate that in like a high leverage way.
Great, thanks. So one last question from me, and then we'll open it up to the audience here. So, like, what encouragement or key advice would you give to any alum considering applying to the aNVC? Like, if you can think about like one thing that might get them to actually fill the application out, like what kind of encouragement can you give them? And it could be a summary of everything you've said today, but if there's one thing you want to tell them, what would it be? Why they should apply?
I can start. I mean, I would just say, just do it. There's really no downside. There's like it's not a huge amount of work, as we said. There's a lot of potential upside, so just do it. And I think if there's hesitations about maybe how early you are or things like that, just knowing that it is an early stage competition and that many of the ventures are early, and the judges are looking more for like the potential and kind of what traction you have to date. I know you have to have a little bit of traction to compete, but don't hesitate. And if you don't win, I know there have been people who have gone on to compete multiple times and maybe take home a win after that. So there's not a lot of reason to wait. Just do it.
Alex or Romy, anything to add?
Yeah, I would say there's really nothing to lose. So it's a great opportunity, and I'll reiterate what I said earlier, that the having a strong pitch is so crucial to building a successful company, and this is a really good way to refine the pitch, get feedback, and have a shot at getting some non-dilutive capital, which is always great. And then if you do apply, take it seriously. Again, really focus on trying to make the pitch as good as you can get it. Practice as much as you can, and give it your all.
Not much to add on that, but I would say that even if you don't win, I think you still get most of the benefits.
Well, thank you all for sharing that. And we're going to open up questions to the audience. And if you would like to raise your hand and ask the question verbally, please just use the raise your hand function, and then unmute. We'll call on you and unmute yourself.
I think there's a question in the chat about what specific feedback were we looking for? That's a good question. I think for me, with pitches, it's less about the feedback and more about what questions the judges ask, because I think that tells you maybe what are the key points, the sticking points in your pitch, like what is either unclear or what are what's the key point that they're going to have feedback on. Like it might be that they don't believe your market is big enough. It might be that they believe it's too much competition. So hearing what questions they're asking, I think really helps to figure out in your pitch what you need to strengthen.
Anything else, Romy or Alex? Same. Okay. All right. Next question that came in the chat. Again, you could raise your hand if you want to ask questions verbally. But how early stage are companies that apply? Do you see pre-revenue companies? Romy,
We were pre-revenue. Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's totally okay. Some companies take a while to generate the business model that will ultimately sustain them for years to come. So I think as long as you have sufficient proof points around customer demand, potential partnerships that you may have secured, and other factors that demonstrate traction, I would say that revenue is not a prerequisite.
Right. And as someone who's managing the Alumni New Venture Competition, that's exactly true. You can be pre-revenue, but just do your customer discovery, product market fit, your MVP, make sure that's all there. Have customers who are interested in your product or service, show the traction. That really matters, because you will be up against other people who have traction, and it's a good place to be in this competition to have traction. Does anyone else have any other questions for our panelists or for us? Okay, this is a good one. What do you think helped you win? And Janvi, like, actually, I don't know if this is directly for you, but what updates did you make go for a second time? Like, did you make significant, you want to start with this question?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that, I mean, we had made a good amount more progress, I guess, because it had been a year since we had previously pitched, so that definitely helps. And we had gone through kind of a round of fundraising too, so just going through fundraising for those who haven't yet definitely helps you refine your pitch over time because you're getting a lot of reps in. Um, I think that what I learned, and it's kind of similar to what Alex was saying about pitching, is that focusing on kind of the bigger picture and the vision. I think there's always a temptation to like talk about the here and now, like what you've done to date, what your team is, like what progress. I mean, that's all important, but what matters when it comes to pitching investors is what's the 10-year vision, how is this going to get really big? What's the bigger picture? So I spent a lot of time just refining that and making sure that that was the crux of the pitch and that the traction that we had was kind of supporting that we're the right team to execute towards this bigger picture.
Thank you. Alex or Romy?
I think practice, like really practice and get feedback on the pitch. Like don't get feedback from one person, get feedback from like at least 5 people. Like give the, when I say, I mean, like I would for some reason 5 is like the magic number for me. Like I want to show the presentation to at least 5 people and then practice it, at least myself, maybe with one other person. My personal flow for practicing pitches like this is I'll actually like script it out fully and then practice it over and over again until I have all of the main points in my head. And so, bringing the energy and having that like kind of like feeling like natural on stage, like Janvi was mentioning earlier, is really important. And for me, the best way to do that is to like know the material cold, right? So if you know the material cold, you're not thinking about, oh, what are the words that I'm saying and all that. And you can then level up and start thinking about how you're actually coming across. So it's all about practice and preparation for me.
So do you have any idea of why they picked you to be the New York regional winner that year? I think, like, what do you think was the
Practiced a ton. We probably got a lot of feedback and practiced a ton, and also leveraged the I think I got assigned throughout the stages of the program. We got like 2 different mentors whose job was to like tear the pitch apart and give us feedback. And I took that feedback super seriously, and implemented it.
So, thank you. Romy, how about you?
Well, I mean, I think we still do practice. That part doesn't, I guess that part doesn't really go away. And I think a relatable kind of personal experience or, that you think others may have had, I often try and get investors to relate as much as possible in the way that I'm describing things or in the stories that I tell or in the anecdotes that come across. Because when you practice, sometimes you can kind of know it off by heart. But whenever you're giving the pitch to anyone, whether it's in this forum or in other forums, you want everyone to feel like it's the first time, even though you've probably said it, hundreds of times. So I think trying to make it feel personable is important.
Thank you. Would you like to ask another question? You have a lot of great questions, so thank you.
Oh, Laurie and Mary Rose, thank you so much again for organizing the competition and this info session. And Romy, Alex, and Janvi, thank you for sharing your experience. So I'm just curious, I'm trying to remember, does the Rock Center or, obviously the organization, do you guys offer an option for people or the viewers to connect or provide their their information to connect with the competitors afterwards, to provide, an opportunity to chat, to invest and so forth. Do you guys think that may be helpful to not just the winners, but any, participants? Just allow people to opt in.
To opt in to share their info and connect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We've asked the finalists if they wanted to connect once they've, like when they pitch to the judges, and then we will ask the people who are pitching in the global finale if they would like to allow their information to be shared as well. Is that where you were?
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for suggesting that. We don't do it, you know, we do it intentionally, but there's just a few people who end up being the finalists, so it's
Mhm.
not a lot of connections that happen, but maybe we need a more formal process with that. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, I think it would be just, and it may be a good way to help the entrepreneurs. It may not be direct investment. It could be just feedback. Hey, if you do such thing, come back to me in a couple years' time. I would be interested in talking, or something like that, you know?
Absolutely. Thank you. And there are
so
also a couple other logistic questions about aNVC in the chat. So one of the questions is the application done for a specific region, and how do you select one if the company doesn't reside in the region? So if you go to the website, it shows like all the states or countries that are associated with regions. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to us directly if there's any question about where you should apply. We encourage you to apply where you either live or where your company is based. So, but understanding like where in the regional competitions, where they're in-person regional competitions, you may want to align with where you're closest to that region. So it's if you have to travel. So, but we can help you out with that. And as Mary Rose said in there's a centralized application. In that application, it should also show the regions, the states and countries that belong in those regions. But happy to ask that question. That was a frequently asked question last year about which region to apply to, or people randomly chose them, and we trying to fix that process and make it a little clearer. And then what support and resources are available from HBS during the preparation of the case? You'll get in the regional, the first phase is a regional competition. So you get a lot of support locally from the leaders who are hosting those regional competitions. So take advantage of that. We do have the REAP advisors, who are volunteers who are in place to have office hours for alumni. They're highly experienced, either investors or entrepreneurs. So take a look at our webpage and you'll find the REAP, so Rock Entrepreneurship Advisor Program, are just a couple of them. And you can reach out to us too, because if you're looking for specific industry connections, we have a robust YouTube page as well, and you can find some resources there. So the Rock Center for Entrepreneurship YouTube channel. And on our aNVC website, we link out to some videos of past presentations. So just to give you some tips. And also I forget when it is, but maybe Mary Rose knows, but there will be a pitching online webinar that our student team will be hosting, but will be open to alumni too. So those are a couple of the resources. And let's see. Someone asked about Texas. We would love to activate something in Texas, but we need the club to actually step up to volunteer to do it. We are consolidating our regions right now, so we'll have to look into that a little bit. But there are a lot of great hubs for entrepreneurship now, like in Nashville, in Colorado, in Texas, that it would be awesome to get them involved. And even if there were local competitions that fed into the regional competitions, so getting more of those clubs involved to host them. Mexico City is going to host a regional competition to then feed into the international region for the aNVC, for example, this year. Does anyone else have any other questions? We have some time, whether it's to our panelists or to us, as we said. Well, all right. Well, if you do, please reach out to us, and you can reach out through our website, or through our email address, which is alumninvc@hbs.edu. And thank you so much. Oh, we have a,
Yeah, I had a question. I was just looking at the site, and can you talk a little bit about the process where we submit an application, there's a regional, it says shortlisted. Can you talk about what criteria in, like, once you submit the application, is it pretty much it, or is there a way to refine it in between submitting your application to being shortlisted?
sure. So I was saying before, like, it's this year, we actually have enabled the application to be edited after you officially submit it up until the deadline. So each of the regions have their own ways of supporting entrepreneurs, and they all are looking at people who have even started their applications, trying to give early support and to encourage them to finish their applications, and with the people who've submitted them. So I would say, so submit your application early, learn from the regional leaders who are hosting the competitions to help refine your pitch or what your application looks like. And the first step is we look at it to make sure you're eligible. There are a lot of people who apply who don't really fit the eligibility. And so that's the first step. And then the regional leaders will see the applicants for their region and then review them and reach out and help give some early feedback. Did that answer your question, Johannes?
Yeah, Johannes. Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And also, she had put in the chat to reach out to the regional clubs who are hosting regional competitions. So all of those contacts are on the aNVC website. So if you're interested in finding out more about the specific logistics of that each club has regarding their regional competitions and support, definitely email them. There's emails hooked up to all of those contacts there for each region. So anything else today? All right. Well, thanks again, Janvi, Romy, Alex, and for everybody who attended the session today. And Mary Rose, of course, is always phenomenal in helping put these things together. And like I said, reach out if you have any other questions. And thanks again to our panelists.